It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, May 15th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's getting into the curious case of Noah Cates.
This could be a tough one.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. You can find our show on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get the latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to talk Noah Cates. Just a quick Men's Worlds update. We were wondering if Sam Ersson was going to get a game in the tournament. He did in a 6-1 win over Germany with 15 saves on 16 shots. So Germany did not have a lot of chances.
No,
in this one.
that's a day off, man. That's what that is.
Sweden currently leads Group B, where the United States is fourth and are 1-0-1-1. They lost to Slovakia in OT. This team is in trouble.
Yeah, they're in trouble. I mean, there's no question they're in trouble. But again, I only have so much brain power for things like this when, there's draft stuff for me to worry about.
That is true. Joel Farabee did get on the board, though,
That's
with an
it.
assist in this one. So did not come up empty-handed. Just a reminder, we do have our listener poll of the week still going. It's over on our YouTube channel. There's a link to it in the show notes, and it's about the contract situation for the Flyers this offseason and which contract you might be the most worried about as far as the cap hit goes. So make sure you get your opinion known there. Turning our attention to one Noah Cates, who had a rough year this season, his second full year with the Flyers, but he broke his foot back in November, didn't get back on the ice until January. I think it took him a little bit of time to get going again there. So he only had 59 games played overall this season.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like when he came back, though, he was pretty good. So I feel like he did finish the season on a fairly decent note. And I have some comparisons that's probably going to shock you with him. But, I was not that upset with Cates. I think the coach kind of messed with him a little too much. I think, at some point, he's either got to be a center or a winger and just tell him what he is.
Yeah, I think, we'll get to our kind of recommendations for him and what to do this
Yeah.
offseason and what his goals should be for next season a little bit later. But I think to your point, he really recognized a lot of that at the end of the season in his exit interview notes. He emphasized that he felt he got back to his game at the end of the season. He was more physical, used his stick better, forechecked, which I
Hmm.
100% agree. I think he has one of the better self-assessments of anybody on
He's
this
a smart
team.
kid. Like
Yeah,
he went to a good college. He really is a smart hockey player.
right, and I think the crux of the issue with some of his play this season that caused his numbers to drop a little bit is that he was trying so hard to get better offensively because the team was looking for, a huge leap forward from last year's offensive output, which I thought were a little high for the kind of player he is. And so to get even further than that was going to be difficult. So he was trying so hard offensively that his defensive play suffered, and that's his bread and butter, right? He's a
Yeah.
defensive forward.
Well, he really is a good mix. Torts has kind of turned him into what he wants him to be, just a defensive forward, but he is more than that. But the thing is, yeah, I think he recognized that his game slipped a little that way, got back to it. I did see uh, some better play at the end of the year. Yeah, I just feel like he suffered because he didn't have set line mates. It's hard for a guy to get on track when you don't know who the hell you're playing with from night to night.
I think that's absolutely true, and also the whole, is he a forward or is he a wing? Is he a center? That
Right.
kinda messed with him as well, and he wasn't sure, like, where to emphasize his time during practice even, in order to make sure that he had, the right mindset going into each game over the course of the season. And so I think that, there was a lot of factors stacked up against him here. And I think the fact that he did pull it together at the end of the season is a really good sign.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't mind the way he finished, and that gave me hope for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if you look at some of the stats there, you really have to look at rates for him this
Yeah.
season because in order to compare last season to this season, if you're looking to do that, you have to look at per 60 rates because, of the vast difference in the number of games played. But because he went from 38 points the previous season to 18 points this
Right.
season but fewer games played. So he had more shots per 60 this season than last season, but fewer points per 60 than last year. So not as many of them converted. And if you look at his missed shots overall this year, 49.7% of his 157 shots on goal went through.
Yeah. I want him to shoot more. I think the problem is he was forcing it, like he said, and he can't be the offensive catalyst. But Torts was almost wanting him to be an offensive catalyst, so he tried to do it, and that's not his game.
Right. And I think, if you look at his goals per 60, very similar to last season, zero point 0.5 last season, zero point 0.4 this season, points per 60, 1.6 last season, 1.3 this season. So it went down again, but recovering from an injury, getting tossed around the lineup. I think that his shots per 60 did go up significantly,
Hmm.
4.4 to 5.7 per 60. So that was good. So I do think there was a lot of good in this season, even if like the eye test would say it was a disappointing season for him.
Yeah, I think he's one that you really have to break down, look at game film, and it was a tale of two seasons, two half
Yeah.
seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked on yesterday's show about Owen Tippett and is he a potential future Lady Byng candidate? We know that Noah Cates is more in the Selkie column of
Right.
things in terms of style of play. Not that he'll ever win it, but that's the kind of player that he is.
Yes.
But zero pims for Noah Cates
It's hard
this
to do.
year.
It is. That's
Yeah,
very hard to do.
average time on ice went way down this season as well with all the stuff that was going on and where he was in the lineup and
Yeah,
minutes.
that was a lot of the coach's choice, and once you start messing with that, you're gonna mess with other things, and that's what I don't think the coach gets sometimes is if you want consistency in the player, you still got to give him consistency with the minutes. I know he feels like
Yeah.
he's this old school guy that says if you don't do your job, I'm going to take your minutes and give them to somebody else, but it doesn't always work.
No, and I think that that is not the way to help Noah Cates, and it's not
No.
the way to help a younger guy trying to develop. And um, I hate to keep going back to the Egor Zamula example, but he got all the opportunities in the world and it worked. And
Right.
I just they have to do that more often with more of these guys. And it's not just for defensemen. I think forwards just put them back in and let them fix it on the fly
Right.
and let them figure it out in game action.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from a coaching standpoint. That may, burn you a little because you're mad at the mistakes, but you have to look at what the upside could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of his time at center, his face-off percentage actually went up this season. It's still under 50%, but it did improve over last season. So that's a good sign as
It is.
well.
I think he can get to 50. I think
Yeah.
he could still get a little stronger. If he gets a little physically stronger this year, that may happen.
Yeah, I think so. It's at 44.5, so there's a little ways to go, but I do think that it's possible if, they're going to decide to play him at center.
Right,
I
we
mean,
have no idea. It's impossible to say.
who knows? There is more to talk about with Noah Cates, and we'll get into things to work on and his goals for next season coming up next. We all know how important life insurance is, but it can be overwhelming trying to find the right policy on your own. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same day approval and avoid those unnecessary medical exams. I know it feels much better to have insurance and not have to worry about family being covered. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs, and even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. And Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. On tomorrow's show, we're going to dig more into some draft eligible prospects. So stay tuned for that as we continue to try and figure out who the Flyers might pick at 12 and with the Florida pick. So, as far as, moving forward, for things to work on, I think, you mentioned more shots. You want him to take more shots. I think he still needs to get more comfortable shooting.
Yes.
And I think that will help him balance out his game with offense and defense a little better.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just he's gotta shoot it when he feels the opportunity's there, not when he's forcing it.
Right, and then we talked about the issue with, having different line mates all the time. I think it especially if he's gonna be a center, he needs to have some consistent line mates because I think in order to be that play driver and create offense through defense, that's, his mantra is create offense through defense. He needs to have regular partners that he can do that with.
Right, and I wrote on the notes to create more chemistry with line mates, meaning if things look good and it's clicking, but you know it's on the edge with the coach, then just kind of hang out with these guys and show the coach that you guys all get along and there is this chemistry and he shouldn't break it up. I think you sometimes have to, prove it to the old guy there that, hey, um, we're fine. Leave us alone. We'll get the job done. So I'd like to see him do more of that.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that if he does all of that, he'll have that higher scoring rate that we're
Hmm.
looking for from him. He did mention in his exit interview that he's going to work on skills that apply to both center and wing, so that he can be better prepared to play either
To
position
do
when
anything,
he
like, who
comes.
has to it's hard
Yeah,
I can't stress enough how hard it is for some of these guys that John sends them off, he doesn't tell them where they're gonna be playing, and so now they have to practice for everything. It makes the job much harder, and you can't be as effective. It's not the player's fault, but he just can't be as effective not knowing what position he's gonna play in year 3.
right.
Like, this is a failing of the coaching staff. It is.
Yeah, and I think that's especially more challenging for him given that it's a contract year. He signed
Right.
that 2-year deal, 2.625 AAV, and this is a critical year for him because he could be one of those guys that goes down and has like a 1-year deal for a million, million point five just to reprove himself
Mhm.
somewhere, or he could re-up for like $4 million if he has a really successful year. And to put all of that pressure on this year in terms of production, in terms of consistency of play in the contract year, when you're not sure what position you're playing, I think is a little unfair to him.
Yeah, I do. I think it's unfair to him, and other people will say, "Well, it's tough. He's a pro, whatever." And it's like, okay, you go to work every day and have your boss every couple of days say, I know we had you, let's say you're a machinist. We had you on this. Well, now we're going to move you to that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not easy.
I mean, I will say I've had those jobs where, like, all of a sudden you get new job
Right.
responsibilities thrown
And
at you,
it
but
sucks.
it is awful and nobody likes it, and you're like, "Well, pay me more to do those extra
Right.
things," and they say, "No, you signed an agreement." And
Right.
then, I mean, it's not the same, but it is the same in a lot of
In a
ways.
lot of ways, mentally, it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so, and, you know, they are professionals, but at the same time, you
They're
wanna
not
know
robots.
exact. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I learning what he needs to work on is going to be critical. Like, what part of his offensive game do the coaches want him to work on? What part of his defensive game do you think he can improve on? And, I think that he really does just need to continue where he left off in terms of especially the physicality.
Right.
I
Just
think he was.
be tenacious in
Yeah.
the offensive zone. I think the rest will figure itself out, but it does matter who you're playing with because is he going to have to go and retrieve the puck? Is somebody else going to do it? He could play either role, but he's kind of have to, it's good to know which role is going to be predominant.
Yeah, and I think the digging the pucks out in the offensive zone is something that he's very good at.
Yes.
And I think that they could utilize that a little bit more on
Hmm.
this team
Yeah,
in
there's
terms of,
upside there.
yeah, creating set plays, but if he doesn't have line mates that he can dish the puck off to when he gets possession, then it doesn't do any good. And he's just, exhausted all that effort for nothing. And so
And
I
this
I
is where
just
the 11-7 hurts. If you're a guy
yeah.
like Cates and all of a sudden, middle of the game, it's all getting jostled around because of the 11-7, and you've had a bunch of different line mates the whole game. That's where the 11-7 really stinks.
Yeah, I think so. Um, in terms of, let's just say he's gonna be a center.
Hmm.
Is he your 3C?
Well, that's what he has to take that job. He has to take that job from Ryan Paling because, uh, yeah, he might be a teammate, but too bad. Sometimes you have to do some things for you. And if you look at it, it's not going to be that hard for him to do it. I mean, while on the surface, people were like, hey, Ryan Paling had this really good season. Yeah, because he played a full season, which he had been able to do, and he had 10 goals. Okay, that's great. Or we had more than 10. I forget how many goals he had. But at any rate, there was only a 10-point difference between Paling and Cates. And I looked up the amount of minutes, knowing what Cates' time factor was. And Paling played 340 more minutes. And Cates was still better as a -8 than Paling's -11. Now, you could say, hey, Paling had a couple shorthanded goals that were important and he won some big faceoffs. Hey, that's great. But I'm just telling you, Cates is a better center.
It's a dilemma because
Yeah.
I would rather him play wing because I think he can do better at wing in terms of getting points on the board, and he can be that guy to forecheck and dig the puck out of the corner, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that there's value to him playing center specifically because of his defensive mindedness.
Yeah, yeah. Paling had 11 goals. Cates had 6. Had Cates played a full season, he would have more goals than Paling. I could pretty much tell you.
Right. So how do you balance like him being a good center because of his defensive mindedness rather than utilizing the puck retrieval skills as a wing?
Just do well in matchups. Third line's got to shut down some guys on the opposing team. Go and shut them down. If you go and shut them down, that's going to show up on the stat sheet. That'll get you your time. As far as Paling, look, if you want to use him as a face-off specialist because some of the other guys aren't doing well, you could do that. Bring him in for defensive zone face-offs, then have him leave the ice. He could still be the fourth line center and do that if you want. There's different ways that you could utilize guys, but I'm just saying. If long term, even the Flyers are unsure that Paling's better than Cates, or they're giving him a better deal. They rewarded him for what he's done so far, but they need Cates to be better than Paling long term.
I think so. I mean, if Paling's a 4C, that I would rather Paling be the 4C on this
Right.
team than the 3C.
Although
That
I'd
is
rather
for
Tanner
sure.
Lazinski be the 4C, but that's never going to
Well,
happen. I just figured I'd
I
say
know.
it one last time, and that's it. I leave it alone now.
Well, I think that's yeah, Tanner Lucinski. Anyway, um,
We're gonna
we
see.
have
He's gonna get signed by the Blue Jackets, and it's gonna be like, oh,
uh, I don't know, man. That is upsetting to me, but I do still like Noah Cates, despite
me too.
the impression of this season not being as good as the previous year. I think he has a lot of potential,
Good in the room.
and
He's really a good
yep,
teammate.
yep. So I'm looking forward to this upcoming season for him and getting back on the horse, so to speak. Y'all have some really good mailbag questions coming up on the draft, on prospects, and we'll get into that coming up next.
It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. I would take the Celtics over the Cavs. I think they're going to close them out. Uh, May not, you're not going to get the odds in your favor, but I think you'll get a win. What are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, digging into our mailbag, at Olson Math wants to know which of the current Phantoms defensemen do you think will step up to the Flyers next year?
I mean, for me, the easy answer is Ronnie Adder, but the hard answer is I don't know who the coach is going to allow, if anybody. It may not be anybody at the start of the season. That may be the sad fact.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible, but I do think Adard has the best shot at it. He had the most time with the Flyers. It was successful. He had a strong season with the Phantoms, and I think you know it's his for the taking. If he can get enough of Tortorella's attention, I think he can get the job. But that is a big if.
Yeah, it is.
At AQN 1976 wanted to respond to our discussion of the Flyers cap situation earlier this week. That's related to our listener poll that I mentioned as well. And their suggestion is to take the next 2 years to kill all the riffraff money with buyouts and all of that. So they have all the cap space needed to be big players in that 2026 free agency market with this, which is huge. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's sort of what we both want him to do. Uh, Yeah, I mean, because right now they're 5th in the league in dead money, and by next year they'll probably be 3rd in the league in dead money, dead cap money. So that's what they need to do, and I think that's fine. But you have to utilize that. You shouldn't have the dead cap money just to bring in other mediocre veterans. You should be doing it for more of a future look.
Yeah, I mean, there's some huge names on that list. I don't think Connor McDavid is going anywhere,
No, well, I
but
mean, he might go somewhere. It's just he's not going to go to Philly.
just he's not going to go to Philly. But
No,
Artemi Panarin's on that list. Jack Eichel's on that list. Kaprizov's on that list, and I think he might go somewhere. To be
Kaprizov will go
honest,
somewhere.
yeah.
Panarin, I could see re-signing. A lot of these guys, they're on these lists and end up re-signing before they ever hit the market. But no, I think Kaprizov's a legit one.
Yeah, so I think, getting ducks in a row for that year will be important no matter who the free agents are, but
Yeah,
because the timing will be good for the Flyers in the rebuild, for sure. We did get several comments about Carter Yakemchuk, who a lot of people are putting as the Flyers pick in mock drafts. I know you don't look at them, Russ, but they do show. He does show up in many of the lists that I've seen. There was a bunch of comments about him, some pro, some con. What do you think?
I mean, look, he's a really good offensive talent. He's got good size. I don't think he's the best defender, and I think that his first pass is kind of risky. And I think they need something more solid at 12. If he was, picked 15th, 17th, I feel much better about it.
Yeah, we did talk about him in late February
Hmm.
on the show. It's on the spreadsheet link in the show notes if you want to hear a more detailed breakdown about him, but we're going to revisit him and guys like him.
Hmm.
Just simply because there's going to be a funnel in this first round, and similar names are going to show up across the board here. And yeah, I think with him, I don't know that he's the guy. I think he may end up being the guy, but I don't think it's going to be like their first choice. That's
That's
for
fair.
sure.
Yeah.
Uh, Tony Bennett said on Twitter, "Do we go with Cole Iserman at 12, Tisha Ginla, or Liam Greetree? Also, what Florida pick do we have, and who will be of value there?"
Okay. So first thing about Tony Bennett. So my father-in-law went to trade school with him, and so Tony Bennett was Tony Di Benedetto before he was a big time singer, and he was a printer. So
Interesting.
that's kind of interesting.
I'm sure it's a different Tony Bennett, but let's
It's
continue.
not. No, it was that Tony Bennett. This is before he was a singer. So it was that
No,
guy.
I meant the person
Oh, yes,
asking the
of course. Well,
question.
yeah, because Tony's passed away. I thought you
Yes.
were thinking I was making it up. Okay. Um,
No.
if Cole Eiserman's at 12, you don't even think about it. You take him because he has he's the best goal
Yeah.
scorer in the draft. But I still don't think he'll be at 12. I think he'll be gone somewhere like 7, 8. He'll slip a little bit. Tisha Ginla's not going to be there because there's no way Calgary would let him go there. Calgary picks ahead of the Flyers. Calgary's going to get a Ginla, or somebody else will, but it won't be the Flyers. So now you're asking me Liam Greentree. I like Greentree a lot. I think there's some really good offense there. He's a spark plug. He does need to work on his skating. That's the only thing. I'm not against them taking him, but he's going to have to fix his skating.
Yeah, I do like him a lot too, and, we talked about him, on April 18th on the show, and I think that he is also somebody that's like a second choice for me, that if everybody else that I've wanted at that pick is already gone, then he's a fine option there. Like, I'm not upset about it, but I just like, he's not my first choice in that general range of the 12th overall. Now for the Florida pick, we don't know what that is yet because we have to wait and see where Florida ends up.
I think
And
it's going to
that
be
will
32. That's what I think.
oh, I know. It's like the one time I would like Boston to win something, and
Right.
they're just, I mean, I
They're not.
understand Brad Marchand's hurt and they're kind of getting hosed with the officiating, but nonetheless, Boston sports is failing me once again, as they usually do.
Yep.
So, not bitter at all, not
Nope.
one bit. Last question of the day. Michael Kaminis, apologies if your name is pronounced a little differently, asked if that was a Who reference from me, with The Kids Are All Right. Do we share a love for both Doctor Who and The Who? That is correct. I love Doctor Who, and I also love the band The Who. I would say Who's Next is my favorite album of theirs. I think
I like
that
Quadrophenia the best. I don't know why. I really
yeah,
love that album. Uh,
it,
but I'm a big
it's a
Who
good
guy.
one.
Yeah, I'm a big Who guy. I'm not a big Doctor Who guy, although I saw now that they have a new season coming up soon. So, but I had not
It's
gotten it.
already started and
Oh, it
it's on
has.
Disney
Okay.
Plus. So
There you go.
you can watch the first 3 episodes of the season now. Yeah, so I do love Doctor Who and The Who. The Who's Tommy is back on Broadway if you're interested
Yeah,
in.
Tommy's fantastic. That's
Yeah, yeah, really, really is. And this new production is fantastic as well. All right, that will do it for today's show. We will be back again tomorrow talking all things NHL draft. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions you want us to answer on the show, you can do so by letting us know on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today available on the free Fire TV channels app Have a great day, everyone.